Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Cloud Wars Live. This is the podcast where we're exploring all the ramifications of the digital revolution that are changing every aspect of our lives. And especially on the business side, we're seeing some remarkable changes taking place there as both the Cloud Wars top 10 big companies that I cover now are ever more dependent on the big partners and new emerging partners that they're using to take care of all the needs that businesses are going to have here in the digital economy. And an expert in that field, entrepreneur, and somebody who really understands what's going on there is one of our favorite monthly guests, one of our digital all-stars, Bonnie Tinder, who is the founder and CEO of Raven Intelligence. Bonnie, welcome back. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Bob. It's great to be here. My favorite time of the month is this chat with you. So,
oh, shucks. Well, Bonnie, that's great to hear. And I know you've just getting back right from a trip. And, just as a prelude to this, I have never seen these big tech companies, the top 10, which I say are the largest and most influential cloud providers in the world. I've never seen them all move so aggressively and determinedly in the direction of building out and enhancing what they're doing with partners, around the globe. So you're just coming back from a meeting with SAP, right, Bonnie, where they discussed some of this. So we'd love to hear, some of your observations from that and what you think is important, both for the customers eventually, but also the folks who help enable the customers within the ecosystem.
Yeah. So I spent part of this week in Philadelphia, Newtown Square specifically, for the SAP Partner Summit. And it was specific around HXM partners, which is their HR technology, and their number 2 line of business. So a significant portion of SAP and their product line behind the S4 is their HXM platform. And what was a little bit different about this meeting than others that I've been to in the past, other partner meetings, is that it was separate from any customer conference. Mm-hmm. We have Sapphire, we have, Oracle Open World, Workday Rising, and all of those software customer conferences where there's always a partner component to them. But this was specifically dedicated to partners. That's it. And it was a very focused time. And I think it was really beneficial for them to have, 150 of their partners at their HQ in North America, really, working in lockstep for 2023. And I think the purpose of the meeting itself was really to create cohesion in their partner ecosystem. By really isolating the partner initiatives in its own sort of time, and certainly being together in person. I know, we've been back together in person for, a while now, but not specifically, in this sort of setting where we were at a headquarters location. So it really felt different and in a good way to be walking the halls of SAP North America and seeing the energy that's come back in a corporate office.
Yeah. Well, Bonnie, I'm very excited to hear about some of your takeaways from this. Couple reasons. One, it's just so timely now, pardon me, for both SAP and its ecosystem, but also its customers. Yeah. And I also think you do such a great job at breaking down some of these things in an organized list. So I can see that in addition to you being an entrepreneur and a CEO, you've also got some project management background. You come into this with a nice detailed approach of what's happened here. So what were the big points that you felt really came home at this SAP Partner Summit?
Yeah. Well, they called 2023 the year of the partner. And I think that's really significant. I've not heard that in the past. And all of the software vendors, that you're looking at in the top 10, certainly SAP, depend on partners as an extension of their business. And without a solid partner ecosystem, they cannot survive. They rely on partners for delivery, for solution extensions, and, in some cases for distribution and sales of the product itself. And so they rely on the partners for growth. And without a really solid, partner team and strategy, they can't make their number by just selling software. So it's a critical factor, not just for SAP, but for all of the vendors out there. What I heard, and SAP does 90% of their implementations through partners. So I was part of the services track. That's what we do. What we look at specifically at REV, my company. So, what we heard there was, some more definition about, how they intend to create cohesion between the partner and SAP themselves as a unified front to the customer. I think one of the challenges with partner ecosystems and software vendor relationships is that it can be conflictual because there's a lot of finger pointing that is possible, particularly after a deal is sold and during project implementation and things like that. So it's really important that the teams have this very cohesive, alliance together that, can really proactively, guard against this idea, it was their fault, it was our fault, that type of thing. And so that, a lot of the meeting was focused on, this idea of orchestration. That was the term that they used. But how do the partner and SAP team show up as one? That means consistency, even down to presentation font size. So they actually have a new a sales leader, SVP of sales in North America. He came from the enterprise software industry from a competitor. I loved his vision and how important he felt this area of partners were as a competitive advantage over some of the ecosystems. And I think what they're doing is really looking to differentiate themselves through the partner management and through the partner approach. But orchestration, and that was his word, was, he wants to make sure that they have a very consistent front. It's Calibri font size 11, that in terms of presentations, and that, in some ways, definitely during the partner and software selection process, that the customer might not even know where the partner or SAP ends and the partner begins. They need to be that closely aligned. And, the other thing that he said was accountability matters. Mm-hmm. And, he said that the answer might not always be yes to, situationally, but if it's no, you're going to understand why it's no. And we're going to be very clear and transparent, so that trust factor is there between our organization. So, I think those overarching messages, in addition to, all right, let's sell a lot of business together. Certainly that's always the drumbeat there. But, he very clearly defined what it meant that they are aligned as one team orchestrated. So I think that was a big takeaway. And the other aspect to some of the content that was presented was to talk about this idea of, all right, how do we certify teams and people and ensure that the partner delivery framework is consistent, so that no matter which partner is doing an implementation, there are sort of standards that have to be in place and that will be measured to make sure there's a consistent customer experience. And so that was the other piece of things. So it's one thing to talk about, one team. It's yet another to make sure that there's consistency on the back end of things once a deal actually decides to go with SAP. And I think, so there was really that piece of things was focused on it as well.
Hey, Bonnie, I wanted to ask for your opinion on something. Last year, I had a interesting conversation with the SAP's Chief Partner Officer, Carl Farbach. And one of the things he said was, we want our whole partner ecosystem. He said, we want to be a partner ecosystem driven company. So I think that reflects some of what you heard. Yeah. But he also said, we want to have the partners now be involved at every stage of the customer life cycle, right? Not just to be the sort of final step of fulfillment or implementation. As important as that is, they need to understand the customer's sort of strategic issues, their needs, their future direction, and so forth. Did that come out at this group, at this meeting here with the SAP HCXM or HXM team?
Without a doubt. So it's every stage. And, one of the things that was mentioned is early stage, which means like partners need to be involved in the deal from the beginning and not brought in at the end, when a customer decides that, yes, they wanted to do this, or now they have an RFP. So getting the partner involved in what's called phase 0, even, during the sales process. But then, later on after a deal goes live, what was mentioned was they want the partner to be there for future phases as well. Phase 2, phase 3, optimization, the ongoing management services that are possible. So, there's, I think in the past, everybody celebrated the go live, and that was a huge milestone, and everybody ate cake and drank their champagne, and then everybody goes away, and it's like, okay, see you when we need to upgrade to new version. And I think there's no longer that, huge milestone. It's sort of like a series of sprints as opposed to we ran the marathon, or, how should I say? It's a marathon, not sprints anymore in terms of how they view the relationship. So I think that's a huge one. And, solution extensions, there are so many of these, smaller software ISVs, they call them, that offer solutions that fit around the SAP product. And so ensuring that customers are aware of what's possible once they actually do have the SAP infrastructure in place, it makes sense for them to stay engaged throughout the life cycle of a client, because there's so much. Partners create a stickiness factor for SAP, because the more partners that they can get involved and customers, embedding into the product, the more likely a customer is to stay with SAP for many, many years. And so, involving the partners is a huge advantage to SAP, because it continues, ensures that their customers are going to renew with them year to year.
Yeah. Bonnie, one of the things in SAP's Q4 earnings results that came out, I think they said that for their ERP solution, 80% of the customers now are ones that have never done business with SAP before. So this mid-market area, I think, is something that traditionally SAP was not associated with. It was often just, outside the price range of those folks. But it seems now that mid-market is becoming a huge opportunity, both for SAP and its partners.
Without a doubt. And we heard a huge focus on penetrating the mid-market. They want to see an increase of 50% of market share in the mid-market. And the partners who offer things like rapid deployment and implementation strategies that are lower price point that makes them digestible for a mid-market, are the ones that are really being called on to help in these type of accounts. The idea of demand generation as well within the mid-market, in a place that SAP traditionally hasn't played as much, particularly for HXM. They're looking at partners to help really open doors in the mid-market and, help them get the word out that they really do have a solution that is applicable, and can be used very effectively in that mid-market space.
Yeah. And Bonnie, I know when we chatted a little bit beforehand, you said that there are sometimes these vendor events around partners can be, we, the vendor, have all the good ideas. You, the partners, are here to listen and take our advice. Did you feel there was an open forum opportunity here for partners to push ideas back up to SAP?
Without a doubt. And that's one of the things I saw about this meeting that was different than in the past. In the past, and I've been to many, many, many partner meetings, they're really boring because you sit there and you listen for hours and hours, PowerPoint presentations without a lot of actual engagement. And, particularly some of the new leadership, there's new leaders in the partner alliances group. I mentioned this new leader in sales in North America. They really created more of an open forum to listening to the feedback of partners as well, which is so key because the partners have ground level intel that they do not have themselves. So creating like this sort of open forum for discussion, I think is going to bode really well for them. And there was this level of, vulnerability that I saw, like, what can we do better? And traditionally I haven't seen that, with some of the, the big software vendors out there that, and yet I think genuinely they wanted to hear from partners. What is it that's going to make this relationship better? Tell us where we need help. And, I think that receptivity to feedback is a strong step.
Well, that's great to hear because I think all of us have been in situations where people say, we really value your feedback, but as you look at it, they never ask for it. There's no place to give it. And when it is given, it's like, yeah, get back in line. So I think this attitude has come around really well. And Bonnie, what you were saying there at the end about this, it mirrors what's going on so much between the big cloud vendors and their customers of co-creation or co-creation with partners, or the vendor and the partner and the customer together. So I'm really happy to hear this. It's interesting, just this morning, the day that, not that when this episode will be shown, but that here when we're taping it, I had done a piece about, the announcement by SAP that their longtime chairman, Hasso Plattner, will be stepping down next year. So I think it's another indication of this really profound and end-to-end transformation that SAP has made. And I think it's, he's been phenomenal there, but he knows that the new team he has in place is doing the right sorts of things. And I think all of what you've talked about today is really a reflection of that. So this has been very informative, fun to hear. And I think it's an indication of where companies have to get to in this very different world that we're in right now.
Absolutely. And, it was neat to actually be there in person because you feel it more than you do over a Zoom call. And I would say it's, sort of this fresh face that SAP is that SAP has, and it's really exciting to be a part of it.
Good deal. Well, Bonnie, thank you. This has been fun. Do you have any other trips like this lined up? Or are you going to be able to offer some insights from some other big companies?
For sure. Yeah. We're early in the year here. I know there are more planned. We're getting off a lot of sales kickoffs that these vendors have had. And now it's like, okay, now we got to, make sure that we're caring for the partners in the same way. So yes, stay tuned, and more to come on from the other vendors as well, who I know will have their own unique strategies.
All right, Bonnie, last thing before we go, anybody wants to find out more about the work that you're doing, where should they go?
ravenintel.com. We help to really demystify and create transparency within partner ecosystems. And we do that through customer reviews of projects.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Bonnie, Tinder, thanks so much for being with us today and giving us this update on SAP and 2023 being the year of the partner. That's fun to
right.
hear.
That's right. Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, Bonnie. And folks, thanks to you for being with us here at Cloud Wars Live. Hope things are going well for you here early in 2023, and we'll see you next time.